Okay, so the assembly for the Heartwork Coffee Bar. The kit is designed for the game Wild in the Streets, slow death games. It's based on a real coffee shop in San Diego, California. So you're going to unbag it and get your pieces squared away. Find a blunt instrument here to go ahead and pop out all the little bits that are still hanging on. All the cuts are complete. At worst, you might have a little bit of a backing piece still hanging on from one side or something like that. So just take a X-Acto knife and clean it up. These tiny little pieces, you're going to need something real pointy. I had my X-Acto handy, but it'd be better to use something dull. But it's going to need to be thin to get in there where there's fans. So as I'm doing this, I'm making kind of little sub-assembly areas. You can see I've got the stone wall pieces stacked up, and then all of the pipe and the traffic bumper wall. So first we're going to take our backer for our front sign. I'm going ahead and glue it in. Keep an eye on where you are putting your glue, that it's actually going to touch the object you're pushing it against. Now there's a slight warp, it looks like, in the roof piece, so you're going to have to hold it a little longer. If you have trouble getting your tabs into the slots, you may need to sand them down just a little bit. Some of the kits went out with tight slots, but that's been fixed now. So I'm just holding it to try and straighten out that warp a little bit, getting it ready to go ahead and place the actual front signage on. Now, it does not tab in, it's just going to align with the back piece that is already tabbed in. See that I'm kind of holding out the warp as I'm doing this. This is Loctite professional grade super glue. I use it on all the kits. Don't have the time for wood glue or waiting on that, so I like to use this. You can use wood glue, you can use any other kind of super glue. I just find that it's very good. The bottle closes up and you can use it for a long time instead of those little tubes and stuff like that. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to do a little bit of the sub-assembly here on the little air handler unit that goes on the back. Again, pay attention to where your parts are actually going to connect. Get your little piece all together there. I'm just going to set it where it goes on that back wall. And then we have the little side vent as well. So we're going to get some of our walls out. That's the front wall. There is the left side wall and our right side. Here we go. So I don't really mess around with this glue. I kind of just slather it everywhere. It's pretty thin, so once it sets up, I don't ever notice anything about it setting up on anything and making a new layer, but it works great. We've got our exhaust vent. Tried to accurately recreate as much of the doodads that are actually hanging on the outside of the real building as possible. Add some fun stuff. Now you can go ahead and add this now. Just remember that your secondary roof section has to be glued down to the bottom of the roof before you put your walls on. Then I'll mention that again later when I go to do that. You have two different door handles. The bigger C door handle is for the front. It'll go in the acrylic of the front wall when we get there. We're going to kind of do a dry fit on the walls here as we put them together. Going to glue the side corners together, but not be putting glue on the part that is actually going to go up to the roof. So what it'll do is it'll just kind of square it up, and then we'll let it set up just a little bit in its position. I'm going to use the actual roof piece as a guide just to get it in the right positions here. Because again, I've attached the little air handler unit there on the back, so the backup piece that goes under the roof section needs to be attached before you can glue it down to the ceiling, or the roof rather. And once I'm happy that it's square enough, the parts are close enough. I guess you could throw a couple rubber bands around this if you had big enough ones around just those walls. Or you could glue that backup roof piece in first, whichever works. And just set it aside, let the glue set up a little bit while we go ahead and put the secondary roof support on here. So this just goes directly up against the back of that front sign, and then you're going to do your best to align it. Now I've left a little bit around the whole thing to keep it clear of the walls. And now we can attach our walls. There we go. Now you've got the slots on the top are still exposed, so you can see whether you've got the tabs all the way in or not. Now again, if you need to, you can sand these down and make them fit a little better. That's why I recommend dry fitting some parts like this. It's a big kind of a section to be attaching, and then you're also going to want to maybe keep some weight on it, throw a book on it or something like that if it's warped. A lot of times with MDF, moisture changes in the environment can make the one side become more dry than another, which is normal with a wood product. So if you're having any kind of issue like that, go ahead and hold it in place to get the warps out. You can also do a trick where you take a brush, a big brush, like a 1-inch wide brush or something like that, with a little bit of water on it, and you actually do an X on the opposite side of the warp to put some more moisture back in it. It can work on almost anything, cardboard, all kinds of stuff. So that front strip, that narrow strip that looked like a piece of garbage in the bag, is actually there to cover the tabs on the roof, and the rectangle is there to cover the tabs from the walls on the roof as well. Do your best to just line it up. Once you paint the roof gray or black or whatever, you know, any of the bits of the slots that are hanging over are going to pretty much vanish. Not going to notice them anymore. Alright, so now we're going to move on to our etched rock walls. I'm going to start on the back here. Now, there isn't another piece to align. You can look in the pattern, and if you want, there is a little bit of a pattern that will match on both sides, but it's up to you whether you want to match it up. Now on the other side, on the front corner, we'll go over that there is a like a grout joint alignment that you should pay attention for. Right, so over here, this wall has been designed in conjunction with the other wall, so we're going to look to get it close with the alignment. So that's the right way for that one. You'll see the lines line up, and use the lines on the front of the building as a guide of to where it should hang over. Right, so you see that there's that pinstripe line there showing the curtain wall of the aluminum. So you want your piece to sit back from the opening just a little bit so that it covers the edge of the other wall once you glue it on. Make sure your grout lines are lined up. It's easy to do it this way. And then make sure that you are flush with the bottom. The top is going to be covered by the roof, and you're not going to see it. Our door, just get a little around the edges here. You've got about a millimeter or two around the edge, and then look at it from the outside. That'll help you align it. Again, the most important thing is to keep it up off the ground so you don't end up with a rock in your building. If you do end up with a rock in your building, just sand it. It's wood. Just sand it down until you find the high point and sand it a little bit. So now we have our electrical boxes and a piece of the gutter system, as well as the traffic bumper there on the side of the building. It's going to fit right up next to that little vent that we glued on there, and the gutter will bend right around it and then go up connecting to the roof. Then we have the other side of our traffic bumper, or our detail side, has the bolts on it or whatever for the front. Add a little more depth, make it a little closer to the real thing. Go ahead and put on the other side here. Now it's going to bump right up flush to the other one. A little bit of a gap, but you can press it right up against it because the gutter for the rear edge of the building is going to need to attach. Like that. So you need a little room and a little meat. So keep your traffic guard tight to the other one. Now this little electrical conduit box here may be a little long, so we've left this so you can clip it depending on how your wall's set up with your roof. So you just take some clippers and clip it down so it fits nice and doesn't stick off the bottom. People's roofs are going to be sticking up a little bit more. This piece is MDF is so thin, it just takes a couple of snips to get it the right size. Again, make sure you're aligning it with the bottom. Next we have our trim piece that goes on top of the stone wall, the ornamental stone wall in the back. Now you can either put it vertical like that, or you can put it horizontal. I prefer horizontal usually, just because we're looking down on the table, so the added detail looks better from the top than from that front edge. I mean, when we're taking pictures or anything like that, sure, it looks great, but the majority of the time when you're playing with miniatures and toy soldiers, you're looking down on the table, so a little extra detail that's facing up doesn't hurt anything. Now we have our pieces to cover up our tabs on the corners here. I'm going to put it in where it hits the roof first and then wedges down. I'm sorry, where it hits the trim piece first and then wedges down against the roof. And we're going to do the same on this edge here. You're looking for it to be just to the side of the tabs, so it'll create a nice clean edge covering up where the tabs, the two boards come together. This side you're also going to need to keep in mind of whether you're going to put the front edge over the side or the side over the front. So one of these will have to stick off the edge. So we've made the rock wall stick off a little wider, so we're going to, in this case, we're going to match it and make it so it sticks over. And that's it for most of the MDF. I think the last MDF piece is the handle that goes into the acrylic front wall. Now you have 3 different pieces. You have one for the sides and then 2 for the left side. Now this acrylic wall, it's got its mask on it, so you can go ahead and paint in all your text there. You don't have to mask it yourself, so paint it in with whatever color you want, let it dry, and then go back and peel it out before you attach it. I would also prime this building, paint it, do as much as you can before you attach your acrylic pieces so they're not in your way. I would definitely attach the acrylic parts last. You have a piece to fit in that window there. And then you also have a piece for the door and the window on the left side of the building. You'll peel the paper off and just attach them there. You can glue your door handle on, and that's it. It's a Heartwork Coffee Bar.